When you're breathing, you're probably not putting too much thought into what is going in through your nose. Breathing is as natural as blinking, after all, and if we didn't breathe, we might not even be having this conversation right now. You might also remember from science classes that the air we breathe is mainly made up of nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide, with our lungs taking in the oxygen to keep our bodies alive. But have you ever imagined what would happen if the most abundant element present in the air, which is nitrogen, suddenly disappears for 5 seconds? Nitrogen is an element that is necessary to all life on Earth, and nitrogen gas accounts for over 80% of our planet's atmosphere, even though we may not sense its existence all around us. So stay tuned as we discuss what would happen if nitrogen disappeared for 5 seconds. Nitrogen could be found wherever. However, it isn't always usable. For example, most living organisms require the conversion of inert diatomic nitrogen into useful molecules like ammonia, which means that nitrogen in its purest form needs to combine with other elements for us to be able to use it most of the time. However, it can serve a more direct purpose. Nitrogen is necessary for maintaining the balance of our atmosphere. Our home's pressure, reaction, and makeup all depend on this unassuming element. Without nitrogen to make the air more breathable, the conditions on Earth would be radically different. So we are going to take, for example, some scenarios if this should happen. The first one is complete mayhem on our hands. There would undoubtedly be billions of people and animals killed. When nitrogen is removed from the atmosphere, the pressure of the Earth's atmosphere reduces by 80%. Explosive decompression is the term used to describe a drop of this magnitude. Decompression is quite dangerous. It would manifest in a variety of ways in humans, for example by causing severe barotraumas and widespread tissue injury. As the gas within responds, our eardrums will swell, our sinuses will explode, and our lungs may collapse. Our blood vessels may enlarge as a result of gas embolisms, and we may have hemorrhaging. We could go into a comatose state in minutes without pressurized suits and extra oxygen. Depressurization is a typical occurrence for pilots and deep-sea divers, but losing all our nitrogen would be like nothing that we have ever seen. So what would happen if nitrogen slowly reduces? Another scenario we would explore is the significant role the nitrogen cycle plays in this process. This is what cycles nitrogen through the environment through a variety of processes, including fixation, which is the process by which nitrogen gas turns from simple molecules in the air to compounds in soil and water. Biological nitrogen fixation, BNF, refers to how microorganisms convert nitrogen into ammonia and distribute it around the Earth. However, it can also happen in other ways, such as during lightning storms on a smaller scale. When lightning strikes here, the extreme heat causes nitric oxide to develop in the air, which is then deposited in and used by ecosystems all over the world. Human-induced nitrogen fixation, on the other hand, occurs during the combustion of fossil fuels and the manufacture of fertilizers, for example. We know that these activities have a slew of bad consequences for our planet, and they play a critical part in today's nitrogen balance, with some estimates claiming that human activity now accounts for more than half of all nitrogen fixation and more than half of the total nitrogen cycle. Everything dies when nitrogen is removed fully, even if it is done slowly. As nitrogen sources flow via bacteria, plants, animals, and humans through the environment and into the atmosphere, the nitrogen cycle is disrupted, and life on Earth plateaus, decreases. However, if nitrogen becomes increasingly scarce, we would have to make some significant modifications. Synthetic nitrogen fertilizers, for example, are used to cultivate crops by more than half of the world's population. The other half of the population relies on crops that have a natural symbiotic interaction with nitrogen-fixing bacteria. However, if nitrogen disappeared, both possibilities would be impossible. So remember, humans would still be adjusting to lower air pressure, increased combustibility, and all other aspects of a quick change, while all of this is going on just on a slower time scale. But in the meanwhile, we've had a hard time growing anything. Although the outcome isn't as severe as an instant transition, the results are very similar. At first glance, it appears to be good for both humans and the environment, as the globe now has an abundance of fixed nitrogen. In the environment, there are far too many nitrogen-converted chemicals, and the so-called nitrogen scraps produced by agriculture and other human activities are seen as ticking time bombs, because they're just waiting to be converted into nitrous oxide, a dangerous greenhouse gas that traps heat, accelerates global warming, depletes the ozone layer, and exposes us to more and more ultraviolet radiation. None of this bodes well for the planet's long-term survival. So yes, a little nitrogen loss here and there would be beneficial. All bodies of water would boil and evaporate if nitrogen was removed from the atmosphere, changing the rules of the planet Earth once more, which is bad news for everything attempting to stay afloat. And at last but not least, what about creatures that fly? Well, they would be doomed as well, because in normal circumstances, the surrounding air produces enough lift to overcome gravity, meaning that the pressure would suddenly not be enough for them to stay in the air. When it comes to surviving excessive decompression, some aquatic species can handle rapid and significant pressure fluctuations. In this case, a significant biological advantage, but that doesn't guarantee their safety. Instead, the elimination of their ocean home would shorten their lifespan. We should be glad as we are not in danger of this hypothetical situation coming true in the real world. Nitrogen isn't going to go away anytime soon. In fact, in the 21st century, we are actively attempting to minimize nitrogen due to the surplus nitrogen indicated in studies. It is being worked on by scientists to reduce the amount of it in the water and soil. And as a result of the usage of denitrifying bacteria in a variety of research and efforts, Earth's fixed nitrogen levels are reducing just as it should be. But just remember that while too much of anything can make you sick, too little of some things can also be just as harmful. In general, nitrogen is necessary for our survival as well as our planet's survival. We know that our world's conditions are perfectly balanced to allow for life. Excess nitrogen is currently jeopardizing the equilibrium. However, while we are attempting to better govern the nitrogen cycle that we have in the past, if the cycle were to fully break down and the element were to suddenly vanish, we would be faced with a slew of new, very serious problems. If it happened all at once, we'd all be dead or very sick before most of us even realized what was wrong. If it happened gradually, we'd almost certainly try to prevent it, perhaps by inventing a completely artificial nitrogen cycle and redistributing it across the globe, assuring that the global environment is kept at the exact levels that are needed. But hey, until then, this is what would happen if the planet's nitrogen supply ran out. So let us know what you think in the comment section below and give us a thumbs up by hitting that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on post notifications so you don't miss any updates from us. Finally, go through the channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.